Hey guys, welcome back to Home Recovery. We just don't look for recovery. We hunt for it no matter how far, no matter how close, no matter we're gonna find that joint. Now today I'm here with Brooke and she is gonna tell you guys her story and she works for Home New Vision. What position are you in?
So I am the Director of Jackson Services for the Home and New Vision here in Jackson County. We provide substance use and alcohol use services for anybody in active use or people in long-term recovery.
Right, okay. So in your opinion, what this is a lot of work to have to get to this point that you're in now?
Oh yeah, yep. So I also am a person in long-term recovery, and for me that means that I haven't used any substances in the last 7 years. Um, I've worked really hard at my recovery and to get to where I am today. A little bit about that is I had been using heroin and crack and cocaine for many years. I found myself stealing and breaking the laws, so I was offered recovery court, in which I failed to complete. So I was sentenced to a year in the county jail. Doing that year taught me a lot. I'm in recovery today because I served that year in the county jail. I got out and I did hit the ground running. I started showing up to Home and New Vision, started volunteering, um, got all the trainings I could get. So the good thing about Home and New Vision is they do offer trainings for people who want to come into the field and work. Those are free. All of the services in Jackson for Home and New Vision are grant funded, which means that they're 100% free to the participants. So I took advantage of those programs and I received a peer training certificate, showed up, volunteered, just kept putting one foot in front of the other. When I had enough recovery time, I went for volunteering. I applied for a position in which I had to beg to get. We joke about it now. Since then, I've just put one foot in front of the other, continued to serve people the best way that I knew how. And it's led me from being a recovery coach, a volunteer, to a recovery coach, to a program manager, and now I'm the director, so I get to see oversee all the programs at Home and New Vision. And it's really just been doing the next right thing. Like, I didn't do anything extravagant. I didn't go to school and get a 4-year degree. I really just every day wake up, self-reflect, what's the next best thing I can do? I joke often that Home and New Vision pays me, but I actually work for Jesus. So I try to do what I can to make sure I'm serving our community in the best way that it needs to be served.
Absolutely. So let me ask you a real quick question.
Yeah.
Do you have, because a lot of people probably wants to know this, that's what you've been, so you don't stay far clean and stuff like that. Do you ever have, cravings or, ever think about, you know what I mean, going back? Not saying think about it, but you know what I mean, have cravings or have, using dreams or...
Yeah, yep, no, that's a good question. So, obviously my triggers and my cravings were a lot stronger in the beginning, right? I have used for so long with so many different people that when I would cross paths in the beginning with people, it would, be difficult because I also was a hustler. So when somebody would ask me, can you get this or that, those times were struggling for me. I will say that when I was in jail, I created a sheet with Bible scriptures and things I was going to do when I felt cravings. Mm-hmm. And I honestly haven't had to use that. And I will say the cravings that I get are really at weird spots. So it's not like when I smell drugs or anything like that. It's really so there was a certain ATM that I used to use to go meet my dealer because it was close to there.
Right.
So the first time I pulled up, and even now, I avoid that ATM because when I pulled up to that ATM, I don't know, it looks just like every other ATM I pull up to. But I got, chills and
feelings,
I started feeling feelings. So I will say triggers for me, they happen really unexpected or not where I would ever think, right? Because in my mind, I always think somebody intoxicated is probably going to be triggering to me. Yeah. And it's really the ATMs or certain places, or if I'm because I liked crack and cocaine. So when I go without sleep, then my
Yeah.
mind starts to go, oh, well, you know how to stay up,
Yeah.
and things like that.
For sure.
They have gotten a lot fewer. I still have using dreams. I still wake up from those using dreams like, did I use? Nope, I didn't use,
Yeah.
Kind of use it as power after you wake up and see that you didn't actually use in the dream. But yeah, it still does happen.
So what kind of exercises or like, cause me personally, like when I used to do crack too. So when I hear the popping sound when I'm cooking, that's what makes me, you know what I mean, go like think like that. So like, what exercises can you like offer or can you suggest for people that like, have those feelings or whatever?
The craving?
Yeah.
So what I have found through Smart Recovery and some other groups that I've trained to facilitate is that thoughts or cravings will only last about 20 minutes, okay? Unless you fancy the thought, right? So like if you're thinking about using and then you try to look up your dealer's phone number or maybe you're getting some chore and a pipe and all these things, the thought's gonna last a lot longer. But if you don't fancy the thought, it's only gonna last about 20 minutes. So a good tool that's worked for me and that other people use is an urge jar. So what you do is you take a bunch of pieces of paper and you come up with activities that take about 20 minutes. I always say pick an activity that you enjoy doing. So if you don't like vacuuming and you want to drink beer after you vacuum, don't put vacuuming in your jar.
Right, yeah.
Right? But vacuuming could be a good one because it's a 20-minute distraction. What I used was a 20-minute playlist. Now you want to make a playlist that's like inspirational music that will kind of bring you up. You don't want to play no Limp Bizkit break stuff, right? If you're trying to work through an urge, but you can create a playlist that lasts about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, and listen to those songs through. A lot of people do scripture, meditations, whatever kind of their pathway is. Really, you're trying to create a distraction for a short period of time to get your mind off the craving. That's kind of a cognitive way to work through cravings and kind of a practical way. Another thing is like an urge log. So a lot of times we can write down the time of day we're having an urge, the smell, the sound, whatever's in there. And then you can kind of see where the track record is of where your urges are, right? So then you can avoid, so if it's a time of day, so if at noon, and then a lot of third shifters say that they struggle with this, is they go to the bar after work. So 8 a.m. is a hard time for them because they were used to getting off work and being able to go to the bar. So they would attend support groups at 8 a.m. So they knew they were surrounded by somebody when those triggers were going to happen. When you can keep a log, that's when you can really start to identify where the pattern is. Maybe it's driving by a certain spot. Maybe it's going to a certain gas station, right? Depending on the substance.
So you can avoid that.
Yeah, so you can make more informed decisions to avoid the cravings. Because any relapse starts with an urge, a thought, a craving, right? And then that's what we act on. So it's like getting between, sometimes you can't avoid urges, but you can't avoid acting on them. And it's like, what do you do in the urge time, the thought time, and the actual picking up?
So I'm gonna go back to what you like your experience in like your life. So what made you like put down like, want to change? Like what made you get to that point? I know it's gonna be different for everybody, you know what I mean? But I just wonder like what was
my thing?
Turning point of that, if you want to say that.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. So for me, I didn't want to stop using drugs. I loved using drugs. It was my lifestyle. It's how I made money. It was all the things, right? So I had no intention, even getting sentenced to that year in the county, I had no intention on staying in recovery.
Right.
Like I was just going to meet some people I could hustle to when I got out, and I'm just going to do this time and go right back. I did about 6 months in, kept seeing older people come in, still on crack, still doing the thing, and I was like, man, that's gonna be me.
Right.
I got really into my Bible. I will say church has been a major pathway in my recovery. Jail was also a pathway in my recovery. I started getting into the Bible. I started attending the Bible studies they had at the jail. And then something like the Holy Spirit, I believe, changed my minds and thoughts, because after about 6 months, I had peace just being in jail. Like I was more free in jail to not have to do the chase and all the things that come up with using, that this peace came over me. And it was then that I knew that I didn't want to go back, because I knew I wouldn't stop using. Right. I took an MRT class in jail. It was ran by a man named Wayne Baker. And to someone who's using drugs, you look at professionals like they have it all together.
Mm-hmm.
They qualified to come into this jail and do this. Well, one day during an MRT group, Wayne said to me, yeah, I used to smoke crack and drink. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
That blew my mind. That you are coming into the jail, they don't pat you down, you walk by with your briefcase and you can come serve us.
Yeah.
And it was then that I was like, that's the work I want to do. I want to be able to serve people. So I started asking him, what did you do to get to where you're at now? And he told me Home of New Vision, gave me people's names and phone numbers. That I actually took those phone numbers and made the phone calls. That's the important part about it, because people will hand us so much information,
Mm-hmm.
and if we don't take the step to make the phone call or show up to Home of New Vision, but I actually made that a goal of mine. I'm gonna get out and I'm gonna call Home of New Vision and see if I can do what this dude's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've been employed at Home of New Vision for 6 years. I volunteered for a year before I was employed here, and I've been able to do just that. I've been able to get into spaces that I never see myself like gonna be able to.
Right.
I never thought anybody would see me different than a person who uses crack.
Yeah.
Right? So I
Yeah.
discredited myself before. And I will say that if you're that person and you think no one's gonna see you different, you're wrong. You're so wrong. Recovery does happen. People do recover, and there is agencies out here that are wanting to hire people with lived experience because you can make an impact on other people. So
That's
don't discredit yourself. That's for God to do. We don't discredit ourselves. And I do believe that God's called us all to a bigger purpose. And it's just kind of finding what that is and putting in our own work.
And like a lot of people, I want to put this out there too while you're here. Like there's some people out there that don't believe in God, and I understand that too. But the thing about it is what I've been trying to put out there too, like you don't have to believe in God to go down this path. You know what I mean? Whatever your higher power is, it could be anything. You know what I mean? Like I was saying, like some people I do know, their recovery is their higher power. You know what I mean? Like that's just the way it is. So I just wanted to put that out there also, because like a lot of people think that just because you gotta believe in God or whatever, have that. You know, and that, you know, sometimes in the beginning of recovery, you don't feel that spirit. You know what I mean? Because all the stuff you went through. And I'm not saying you will, I'm not saying you won't, but you know what I mean? Always have an open mind about that, you know what I mean, situation.
Well, and just because, you know, God and spirituality worked for me, there's so many pathways to recovery. Home of New Vision supports multiple pathways. That's just my story.
Right.
Everyone's story here is different. We have groups for all different types. Find your own pathway. If God isn't your pathway, that's not your pathway. It's not going to work for you if it's not the way that you need it to go. So even with the AA and NA groups, those work really well for some people, and some people are kind of more into other things because of the higher power thing or whatever. At Home of New Vision, at the Resource Center, we do offer all different types of groups. So we have spiritual groups, non-spiritual groups, smart recovery, all recovery, men's groups, women's groups. So you don't have to have a certain way that you just have to try it, right? Try something. Even if God's not for you, we have recovery coaches that aren't spiritual, you know, and they connect with people too, and we all kind of have our place. When I talk about my own recovery, I bring God into it because he was a part of mine, but I know so many successful people that God isn't a part of their journey, right? Exactly. And it's like, we're not living 20 years ago where you had AA or NA and treatment, and that's the only way you could get into recovery. Now we have inpatient, outpatient, recovery housing, all pathway support groups, medications for treatment, right? And so it's like, you just got to be willing to try something and then do process of elimination. That worked, that didn't work, let's
and find your own way to recovery, really, because anybody, you know what I mean, everybody got their own way. You know what I mean? So it's not just one way, and that's the thing. But the other thing I wanted to like bring up is since you're so big, you know what I mean, you work in recovery, you've been clean for so long, do you have like days where you just like, you know what I mean, not fall back, but it's hard for you, you know what I mean? Because like I wanted to just bring back, don't matter how long you've been in recovery or whatever, you're gonna have those bad days. You're gonna have those days where you need to fight and you know what I mean, remind yourself what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I wanted to ask you, like, do you have those days or how often or
I mean, to be honest, I don't have a lot of bad days, but yes, I do. At any one point, I could be right back to where I started. Right? One line and it's off and running, it's gonna be over. So I do try to, when I am having those bad days, I try to look at what I'm grateful for. That helps me. I'm like, okay, well, this all went wrong, but you know, and one day I was having a really bad day, seemed like everything was going wrong. I had celebrated 7 years in August, but this was November, and a very close friend of mine walked in with a 7-year coin. Now, I didn't go down to the group and get my 7-year coin because I was so busy. That day, I was just having the worst day, and Jimmy, my friend Jimmy, he walked in and he handed me this coin, and he said, I don't know, something told me to give this to you. You have 7 years, right? And I said, yes. He goes, I don't know, something told me to give this to you. And all I could do was tear up and smile because it was like, that was supposed to happen on that day. It was not my 7-year anniversary date. This dude had no clue that I was having a bad day because I play it off pretty good, right? I have a lot of people relying on me at my job, but also I have 5 kids at home, so a bad day has to have a mask in some way. So he had no clue this, but when he showed up with that, that was when my mind went to start thinking about what you're grateful for. Because no, I wasn't thinking about using. It was the farthest thing from my mind, but I was having a rough day. And him walking in with that was like, oh, wait, you've come so far. Don't let something pull you back in. So the bad days, I think they get less frequent because a crisis is, a sober crisis is a lot different than a using crisis, if that makes sense. We have a little clarity to deal with it. You know, we at least have a little bit of tools to be able to overcome the bad day. And everything, when you're using, it seems like everything's a crisis, right? Every day is almost a bad day. And then, so in recovery, I think it does get fewer, but you're not exempt from bad days, right? And it's like what you're gonna do in those bad moments is the real test, right? I always say, everyone can say sober in treatment because there's no drugs there. Right? Like it's harder to get drugs there.
Or jail.
Right. The real test is when you get out, and it's not when everything's cloud 9. The real test to see your recovery is when the bad times happen. You know, and like, are you gonna overcome? And then there's power in that, because when you can overcome a bad day and not use, you're empowered to continue to overcome bad days without using. You know?
That is true. But I want to ask you one last question, and I'll let you go. I know you're busy. But and when you said something about the kids, and that's what made me think about this. Like, you got 5 kids at home, right? And I know when you started your recovery, it must have been hard. What got you through with the kids? Because I got a lot of kids too, and I'm like, yo, this is like, you know. But I mean, I use different ways, but I want to know what's your ways that you used back then. That just to make you go crazy or just make you like, oh, forget all this stuff.
Because now you're in recovery and the kids are still the kids and all the things. So I will say, when I got in recovery, I had a lot of repairing to do with my kids. So that's a good point.
Yeah,
4 of my kids. So I have a 23-year-old, a 21-year-old, a 17-year-old, and an 18-year-old, and then I have a 4-year-old. Okay. So the 4 older ones, I've been in recovery 7 years, so the youngest of those was 11. And I had a lot of repairing to do. So what I found, and now looking back, it was a mistake on my part, is early recovery I tried to do repairing by kind of spoiling them maybe, or like trying to make up for lost time. So I would buy them all these things and I would take them all these places. Well, now that I've been in recovery for a while, I've basically created spoiled monsters, right? Because I was trying so hard to make up, and now I'm finding myself having to be like, well, just because I let you do that then, I'm not letting you do it now. And same thing, when I was using, I would let, like my oldest daughter, she's 21 now, I would let her smoke cigarettes and smoke weed. Well, now, there's no way my 17-year-old, that's 17 now, is going to smoke weed and smoke. So there was a lot of like, well, you let Emily do it. So that was my biggest challenge is like, I tried to overcompensate, and now even 7 years in recovery, I'm like trying to reel that back
Yeah.
because of that. So that was a hard challenge. I will say is like just I admitted where I was wrong and where I couldn't, where I fell short to help them kind of overcome that. All my kids have been through therapy except the 4-year-old because she's experienced only mom in recovery, and I hope that she'll never see a different mom. But the other ones, that's what I had to do, and also take breaks. You know what I mean? You're not Superman, I'm not Superwoman, and when I'd find myself getting frustrated or whatever, I would have to take a step back. If you're a single parent or someone who necessarily can't just take a step back, like planning time for you. Get the kids a coloring book.
Right,
I let my 4-year-old play with glue the other day. It was a whole mess, but it kept her busy for I needed 20 minutes to finish folding the laundry and do a couple things. And so using that for a distraction just to give yourself that 20 minutes.
Yeah, because self-care is really important, no matter, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it keeps you on track, and that is absolutely true. But yeah, that was my biggest, not my biggest question, but I know a lot of people struggle with that out here. You know what I mean? So
it's maintaining life after that.
Yeah, that, and because you know what I mean, with me, I have to get my kids back. I done ruined, you know what I mean, so much of, my custody and stuff like that. So it's hard, you know what I mean, trying to get there. But I just, think about oh, I'm gonna get there one day. As long as I keep in the right path, it's gonna happen, you know what I mean? But I know sometimes that sets a lot of people back. You know what, forget this, I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, that was you know what I mean, the biggest thing. But anyway, I'm gonna let you get back to work. We want to thank Brooke for coming on here and telling her story and her experience and all that. So you already know what I always say. I'm super proud of you. Y'all keep going. I love you. I'm out. Peace. Now.